Hi, my name's Sally A. Curtis. I'm a feisty bite-sized content crusader, and I look forward to sharing some tips and insights on how you can leverage your existing content in simple ways.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a guest who proves that great things do come in small and dynamic packages. Now, Sally, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome. Thank you very much. Really thrilled to be here sharing with you today, Prosper.
Absolutely. Well, who wouldn't be excited to host the feisty, bite-sized content crusader, Sally A. Curtis herself? And for those that are meeting Sally for the very first time, let me just take you off under the internet rock you're hiding under there, because Sally is known for her cheeky personality and passion for personal development, growth, and leaving a legacy of shared wisdom. From transforming books into dynamic visual content to advocating for homes, Sally has mastered the art of turning content into a powerful tool for growth. Now, today we're going to dive into her journey, also uncovering the secrets behind her success and the lessons that she's learned along the way. Get ready for an episode that is going to be filled with insights, laughter, maybe a story or two about racing ferrets, because I'm still trying to hear her side of the story with regards to that. Now, Sally, I mean, I could go on and on. I'm like that little ferret that's trapped in a box. I just want to get out and get to understand exactly who I'm speaking to. Tell us a little bit about your journey so far and what it is that you are doing as the feisty, bite-sized content crusader.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in personal development, and I found personal development and fell in love with the storytelling and the possibilities of inspired stories from stage at a very, very early age. Because like a lot of people back in the day, I got into network marketing, and network marketing was all about the personal development and the mindset and strategies, etc. That caused me to then fall in love with that personal development, as I said. So I've ended up attending lots of different seminars, etc. And then through that journey, through being, a crew member and helping other people fill their events and putting bums on seats, I found myself at the front of the room as a speaker, and then filling my own rooms, etc. And it's been through that process that of multiple evolutions as I've grown, my business has grown and changed and morphed. And I think it's very important to allow yourself to actually change and morph. So that's one of my threads. And through the work that I've done working with speakers, authors, coaches, consultants, and business owners, I've seen them, like me, get fatigued and frustrated. And being a feisty ferret in a lot of ways, I like to work out what's going on and do some problem solving, and that was how I've ended up transforming into this bite-sized content crusader, because so many people have so much wisdom and so much fantastic content, but they don't do a lot with it. They don't leverage what they've already created, and it's not always easy for us as an individual to do that for ourselves, because we often get a bit bored with it, or we're over it, or we're so close to it we can't see the gold nuggets that are there. But being, a personal development junkie and a little ferret, I love going through all of your stuff, finding all of the gold elements and bringing that to life, because somebody coming in and seeing it with fresh eyes sees it a lot easier than when you're sitting in your own jar. You can't read the label on the outside of your jar. So that sort of concept of, somebody seeing it with fresh eyes, they can see all the inner genius, they can see the gold, they can see the value much better than what we can. I struggle doing that for myself, but that's where I've ended up helping my speaker, authors, coaches, and consultants buddies utilize all of the gold that they've already previously created, and helping them monetize and turn those big pieces of work into bite-sized content.
Absolutely. And well, thank you so much for taking us on that journey right there. Now, you did say you started off, in the personal development space and, attending conferences and things of that nature. So many people have been labeled a conference junkie, and so many people have been, given names that sound something of that nature. Was that for you? Was that for learning, or were you trying to become somebody who is developed personally?
Definitely developed personally. I think for me, having started in that journey of and in network marketing when we were involved, we used to read a book a month and listen to a tape a day. As I said, going back a long, long time, hence tape, not CD. But that, so I had a love of lifelong learning. I wanted to be better. So when I found the personal development industry and started attending conferences and workshops, I was wanting strategies and I was wanting to understand what the opportunities were, etc. I will point out, though, there in amongst that journey, I had a great coach that said to me at one point, Sally, stop studying strategies and study yourself 95% of the time and strategies 5% of the time. So I think there's a really good you need to have that balance. Yes, you can do learning for the sake of learning because you love it, but you need to be able to implement it. And to implement well, you need to know what is going to work well for you as a person and what resonates and where you can fast track stuff. There's no point trying to be a cardboard cutout at the guru at the front of the room if his personality type and the way he does things is totally opposite. That just sets yourself up for failure. So personal development and lifelong learning is very important to me, but implementation and being able to bring those skills and nitpick those skills and bring them into my toolbox that suit me was paramount. But I had to understand me to be able to do that. So that's my little nugget for everyone. You've got to understand yourself first to be able to know what's going to work for you better.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, like you say, if Guru A says this, Guru B says that, and you now just become an omelet of
Yeah.
everybody else's ideas, whereas you don't quite know how you feel about that. So, from all of this, you were first with a issue or a challenge where you now had to unpack your own genius. Walk us
Yes.
through that part of your
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, thank you. So I was one of my coaches at one point in time said to me, "Oh, for God's sake, Sally, you've got enough content to write 6 books." Clearly, as I said to Prosper earlier, I can talk with marbles in my mouth underwater. It's inherited. But I do enjoy writing more now because I've learnt the skill. But back then, when this challenge was laid at my feet, I did not like writing. It was very, very difficult for me because I hadn't unpacked my inner genius. So I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. I just, I just did the thing that I did, and it was almost instinctive. I didn't know how or why I was doing it, which was where this other comment came in before. But I love a good challenge. It's a little bit like where the feisty ferret comes in. So I'm like, okay. So I followed his suggestions, and we actually turned a 45-minute presentation, so training that I'd done with the workbook that came with it. We actually turned that speaking gig, so to speak, into 2 100-page books. So that was a sort of a repurposing scenario in there. Didn't think it was repurposing at the time, just to be very transparent. I just thought, woohoo, I'm an author now, and didn't think anything of it. But it was that opportunity that was created for me to fast track some content and utilize it in a different way that made me realize 8 years later, when one of my clients were coming to me fatigued and frustrated because they were on this constant content creation wheel and they were doing content every week and all the time and they were just exhausted by it. But these people were super geniuses at and high caliber. They had great content, and often had written numerous books or had really good training manuals. So they had robust thought ideas. And I just said to them, "Oh, for God's sakes, give me a book and I'll turn that into something." Reverse of what my coach had done to me. And that was, it was through that process that I realized that I could see their inner genius. I could see the simplicity of what their message was. I could see their essence, and I could turn that into a visual element that helped them minimize that need for constant long form content creation, and just provided them with a library of assets that they could use and drip feed out to their audience. So that's sort of the part of the backstory. Is somebody challenged me, I did a reverse version of that. I then reversed it back the other way to help clients turn their long form content into short form, whereas I'd done short form into long form. And that was where it started. Now, I'm just going to say it started there because I'm still going through this, evolution that, and my little problem solving brain's going, oh, this could be a thing. This might be a thing, turning books into content. This might just be a thing. And I had a client referred to me who had a 100-page ebook that he'd just written, and he had 3 hours worth of video content where he'd been interviewed, much like I'm doing with Prosper today, about that particular book. And obviously it was around his topic of expertise. Now, he actually had a marketing team. So he came to us because he wanted us to utilize and find all of the bite-sized pieces within his book and these 3 hours worth of video. The long story short is we turned that one book, and that's 3 hours, into 374 bite-sized assets. And it was him that actually went, woohoo, that's 2 years worth of content for him to put into his content plan. He had a plan in place. He just needed the assets to put into it. So it wasn't even me that came up with the, woohoo, we're best known for turning books into 2 years worth of content. It was one of my clients. So, I've evolved and grown as a business owner and evolved my practice to always support people. But sometimes I'm not the one that instigates where it leads. It's actually the insights I gain from my clients as to how it's helped them. And then I zoom on down that track, because the feedback that I have got from people along that journey has just gone, yeah, this is something. This is helpful to not only the client, because it takes off the overwhelm and the fatigue and stress from them. It gives them a library of, content that gives them peace and acknowledges who they are and what they want to give and serve. But more importantly, because we can see it with fresh eyes, we can strategically work out how are we going to emotively engage and touch the audience, their audience, so their audience can feel emotively connected to them. And I feel that when that occurs, when someone's easy to consume, they're easy to buy. And the consumer out in the marketplace now, we're all time poor. We've all got lots and lots of stuff on. We want, a little bite-sized tip here and something that's going to make our day better, or, a quick strategy that we can tweak, or a little message. So that's where I've become so passionate in that crusader, because it actually helps both sides of the fence. It helps the clients, but more importantly, it helps the clients' clients who are equally as fatigued as everybody is this day. And it just helps everybody save time and have forward movement on the journey of success that they're on. And that's what I'm all about, helping people have forward movement.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that, because at the end of the day, what you have created and come up with, like you said, is an actual need that people, first of all, have. And they can articulate what it is that they want from you based on the words that they're actually using. You know how many people just show up in the marketplace with, yeah, this is an orange pen, you're gonna need it, without actually having tested it on the actual people that will, literally put their hands in the pocket and say, this is something that I need. Congratulations. Very few people can say that about their business or their product or things of that nature. And yeah, I'm equally impressed with what you are creating there. But with the 2 years, or however amount of sort of content that you'll be creating, when somebody writes a book, they're in a different frame of mind, in a different sort of being and things of that nature. Are you able to maintain and amplify that while still maintaining the consistency that long form piece of content has? Because some people might be looking at this and thinking, oh, I wrote this book, and how can somebody make it into a bite size sort of piece of content and things of that nature?
Yeah, great question. I think the first thing to note is when somebody's, my experience, I should say, is when somebody has birthed a book in speaking to my clients, they've spent a lot of time writing the book, getting it. Well, some people do it in 90 days. Majority of people take a little bit longer to birth a book. By the time they've written the book and they've gone through that editing process, etc., by the time they come to me, they're like, don't you make me read that book and turn it into bite-sized content. I've had enough of that book. Don't you even think about making me read that book. And I'm going to say I mentioned that first because one of my great friends and colleagues said to me one day when we're over coffee, the money's in the boring. And I say it that way because somebody's book has so much inner genius in it, but because they've grown, because they've written their book, because they've unpacked more of their information, they're already on to their next exciting ferreting adventure, prior and beyond the book. When somebody wants to repurpose a book, it's almost like looking backwards. They don't want to do it themselves, which is why it's an easy thing for me, because it's I haven't gone through that process. So I think it's important to note that strategically, people don't want to actually look at the book. They're actually over it. They don't know that they don't want to look at the book, but you see it on their face. They go, oh, you're going to make me read that book? I've finished with it. So I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing that's really important, and is one of my greatest tips, is you actually don't read the book. You actually look beyond the words. So you don't go through and read the book. You actually see what jumps off the page for you. And I know that's a bit of an alien concept. But if you remember back in the 90s, we had those beautiful stereogram images where they look a bit psychedelic. And if you stared at them, another image would jump out of the page at stereograms. That, when you look at those with weird eyes, or squinty weird eyes, that's ultimately what you do when you go through a book to see what jumps off the page. So you look beyond the words is my first tip if someone wants to do it for themselves. But going back to the question, and I think I'm coming back on that question, is somebody's book actually holds the key to a content plan and a content strategy. So if a book's titled, How to Be the Best Leader in the World, that's about leadership. So that's your overarching topic or big word, if you will. Then on the contents page, you've got chapters, which are obviously another big piece of work, which can form your month's topic for the month. And then there's elements within there that you can turn into bite-sized content. So if you look at a book strategically, not reading the book, but you look at the front, the index page, the title on the front page, the index page, you can actually map that across your content calendar plan, and you can create your e-newses, you can create your articles, and then you can go about finding those little one-liners and those bite-sized pieces within it. So then you've got your big content and your small content, but more importantly, and I think you would know this yourself, is that with your clients, is most people aren't good at content because the first thing they can't and they struggle to do is create a content plan. But your book is the plan. Your book's the plan.
Absolutely. While you're talking about that, I'm actually looking because, I've been in a book creating process and things of that nature. Some books even come with parts of the book, maybe 3 parts or 4 parts that can now be your quarterly content, and then the chapters become the monthly parts that you can then expand on. And
Yeah.
this is all just now coming full circle, and the simplicity of it all just comes down to the fact that people take maybe between 12 to 21 touch points of them understanding the grasp of your content. So if you just put out your book today and say, hey, here's my book, people are going to be like, oh, okay, that's fine. But if you come in with yet another topic, different side, different approach, and a different way, but still relating it back to the book, it no longer looks like you're repeating the same content, but it's actually you creating for and relating to your audience.
Yeah, and you can utilize your book to create all sorts of different formats. So we've spoken about written things. You can turn it into a podcast. You can, a podcast episode or a series, or you can do a video on it. And you can turn little short posts into graphic videos. There's so much that you can do from a book. And I say it that way because I've got one client, we're on the 4th year of creating content from one book. And that's just because we've gone through the book once and then we've gone through it with a different lens. So we've gone through it the first time with, a keyword topic. And then the second time we went through with a slight variation on that keyword. And then we've created different types of content formats. It's all there. But sometimes you just need to know where the guiding light is to look.
Absolutely. Now, Sally, just looking at this, you do seem to have a knack for creative solutions. I mean, we were laughing about how you went from horse racing to racing ferrets. Like, how do you actually come up with these unique ideas, and how do they then translate, into your business strategies? Because from what I can see, all of these are seemingly obvious ideas. Who hasn't read a book and seen the index to actually see that this is a content strategy in and of itself?
Yeah, I think for me, if I met when I sort of start telling the ferret stories, people go, yeah, that's so your spirit animal. That is so you. So to explain that, I think having a curiosity about people, and I do love ferreting through stuff. So I say it that way because when clients work with us on one of our 7-month packages, I say to them, just inundate me with everything. And they go, what, everything? And I go, yeah, folders and folders of stuff, because I will ferret through it to find all of their gold. So ferrets are naturally curious. I'm naturally naughty and I like to go and play. So, add those two together. That means whatever you do, you've got to find the fast way, which means you've got to look. And my favorite quote of all time is opportunities are hidden in plain sight. You've just got to look for them. Being a ferret, I've worked out where to look for them. So I will want to look at something, go, okay, I can see the problem. How can I fast track it? Who do I know that can help me understand it so I can fast track it? So I'll often solve problems through asking the right questions of people. But this curiosity and this love of people and love of information enables me, as a unique gift to me, to see the individualization of a human, of a person, and their perspective as it relates to their thought leadership topic. So naturally, it's very effortless for me to go, oh, yeah, I can see exactly where you're different in the marketplace. And then I can go through ferret through their content to find that unique element. So I think from a business perspective, and if I look at when I've had quieter periods in my business, or I've had uncertainty in my business, when I've gone down a different problem solving avenue, if I've lost that love of curiosity and seeing the individualization in people, then I've lost the essence of Sally. So I've sort of lost the momentum in my business. Does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the interesting thing is you're both good on and off stage, and obviously with the content creation aspect. Has the last sort of couple of years, or the years during the pandemic, sort of had an effect on the way you run your business at all, or?
Yeah, it has for me. So prior to COVID, I was more very much more local and more in that coaching mentoring space. I was transitioning and building the agency just prior to COVID, so that was well timed. We were actually at our professional speakers conference, national conference, on the evening and weekend that it hit. So all of our phones were lighting up with cancellation. So it was a significant thing for us, because we were actually, lots of my speaker buddies were together. But the business itself had started to shift anyway. So from me, at that time, I was face-to-face, speaking gigs, workshops, live events, and of course that all stopped. We were lucky here in South Australia. It didn't stop for that long, but obviously the world shifted and changed. I think what excited me from a business perspective, I saw that people were starting to ask the question of, why am I here? What am I meant to be doing? And that rise in people finding their legacy and their causal element was great, because they're the people I resonate with, and I'm getting goosebumps even saying it. So the shift for me over that period was very much Australian based to very much US based. So and UK based. So my business shifted dramatically. Location, it shifted dramatically from face to face to virtual, and the way in which I suppose I sold changed, and those sorts of things. So there was a lot of change, but I think I was quick to adapt to it because I was already, although I wasn't, none of us were expecting it. I was actually in that transition mindset, so I was able to adapt easy because I was in a change movement or mode, whereas people that weren't wanting change and then had it dished on them, it was a different mindset scenario.
Absolutely. So you moved from, I think you used to call your business entrepreneurial connector to
Yes,
monetize your content, right?
a little bit in between there. So we've actually, and these are the names my community have given me, except for this last one. So let me, if I can just elaborate on that. And this is where I say it's important to be able to change and adapt and evolve as we grow. So back in the day, I was an entrepreneurial connector, known for networking and growing businesses and joint ventures from a networking perspective. Then I came into the marketing. My community called me the marketing problem solver because I was helping them solve their marketing problems. And then I was, when I did more of started the content marketing agency, I was mucking around with the wording content repurposing whiz. Made sense to me, did not make sense to anyone in Australia. US got it a little bit, which is why I probably ended up more in the US. And then it was only late last year that I was chatting to somebody in the US that does really great 5 days challenges. And he just said something, he threw something away. And I said, "Oh, what did you just say?" And he goes, "Don't you just help people monetize their content?" And it was like, boom, that's exactly what I should call change the business name to. And that's exactly what I do. But I was so close to it, I didn't realize it.
You know what I like about how your products, your business, and everything else has come about from what you're telling us. It's all from listening to the right people that are actually going to be working with you. So many people haven't got that because they have the, for lack of a better word, the ego of thinking I'm the one creating, this is me. It has to be maybe the Curtis method of creating content or something of that nature, Sally's way, just so that there's a part or a bit of them in there. But you haven't taken that route. You've literally listened and delivered on what people are actually asking for.
Yeah, thank you. I think for me, that's that love of people and that everything should be, we should have a simple life. We're all guilty of overcomplicating so much stuff. And I don't know why we've developed that habit, but I think we've all got that habit of overcomplicating stuff. And I think I can just peel back that not always for myself, but I can peel it back for everybody else and go, just let me listen to what's going on. How about we just do it, just do it like that, because then we can get you down the racetrack faster, or we can get you to the party quicker. So I have certainly listened and adapted. And I think, again, that's that curiosity. That's that, why are they doing it that way? Why is it taking that long? And I suppose the insight and the inspiration of that, how can I help them, and that listening and service is usually following, and I'm just going to be a bit brutal and blunt here, where I go, "Oh, those dumbasses, why are they doing it like that?" And I have a Sally rant. So I have a Sally rant first, and there's, why are they doing like that? They shouldn't be doing it like that. And I have that conversation in my head, and then I map out, then I sort of sit there and go, "Oh, it should be done, bossy, because I've got a bossy streak, should be done like this." And then through that unpacking of a problem, and it's something I'm trying to create a solution for, because I'm bossy, and I'm, sometimes I've got to, I tone my bossy down at somebody else, but I'll bossy it on paper, so to speak, to unpack it. That's how I've come up with simple solutions that are practical, is because I've listened to people's problems. I've had that hissy fit in my mind going, oh my God, why are you doing it like that? And then I've explored or unpacked why somebody would do or why they would think that way. Then I've been able to ask them other questions because I've got a greater understanding for it. And then we can move forward from there. So that comes back to that curious and somewhat bossy personality.
Absolutely. And self-awareness is quite integral in all of this, because if you know who you are, you won't be, you know, forced or, taken into directions that are not for you. But do you think your involvement and your exposure to lifelong learning and also personal development has actually influenced your business practices and the way that you interact with your clients? Because not a lot of people would give other people precedence or a seat at the table to say, you name my business or you name my products and I will utilize that based on what you have told me.
Yeah, I think for me that curiosity and because I've struggled finding my own inner genius, and that took years to understand what that was, and having the learning the ability to unpack my ideas. It's certainly I've been able by listening to other people, and going through that process, I know that I can't see my own trees for my own forests. So I know the gift of fresh eyes has. So when somebody says something profound as it relates to my business, I absolutely seize it because I hear it differently and go, oh my God. And if it touches or lands for me, then they're onto something for me. So I've always, been almost a collector of gold nuggets, which is actually, funnily enough, now that you've said that, that's also a ferret thing because they steal pretty things and go and hide them in their little treasure trove. So that's, I will find and pick up those gold nuggets that land, and utilize those. So I think for me, I am quick to utilize. So I think that has been a gift learnt from and through the personal development arena, where you're taught to be resourceful, you're taught to think outside the box. You tend to be a bit more of a problem solver because you can look at the big to find out this, go down to the small, and vice versa. So the personal development thinking, and preparedness to change and move and fail forward fast, are all things that I think and believe I've gleaned from the personal development arenas over the years.
Absolutely. If somebody would tune into this video right about now, they'll just think maybe this is about how to breed the best ferrets. But obviously, as you would know, Sally, a group of ferrets is called a business, and that's what you have managed to create. But there's one key insight that you told me when we first started talking earlier on, and you said ferrets are a made animal. They do not occur in the natural environment. And looking at who you have become and who you are, you've gathered all those shiny objects, all those best things, and you've put them together, and you have allowed other people to have an influence in the creation of
Mm,
this feisty content creator here. I don't know what you think about that insight right there.
that's just touched me very incredibly. So thank you. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, what would be the best way that people can get a hold of you and start noticing if they can get 2 years worth of content created for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Always the best place for me is jump onto LinkedIn, send me a message through LinkedIn. It's Sally A. Curtis on LinkedIn. And you can also visit my website if that's a convenience to you. It's www.sallyaCurtis.biz, B-I-Z. I'm only ever a nudge away because as equally as bossy as I am, I like a good nudge the other way. So yeah, absolutely reach out to me. I'm always here to assist. I love to add value. So if you've got a piece of content and you're going, oh my God, what could I do with this? Let's jump on a call, 5 minutes, and I can go here, 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 and here. And then you'll go, oh my God, is it that easy? And I'll go, yes, it is. So happy to help people out. Happy to help people see the gold that they've got sitting in front of them on a call really quick. Great way for me to add value to you.
Absolutely. Now, Sally, thank you so much. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that people, will quickly get a hold of that. Now, when we first started talking, you presented to us, this front row seating, personal development junkie, so to speak, who was learning and grasping everything that could come their way. I mean, that was a lot of learning, especially in that time. And then you had someone come to you and say, hey, you could actually utilize your knowledge and personal information and create was it 6 months or 6 weeks worth of of content that you can utilize yourself. Now,
Mm.
if you would have been that person that told you that at that particular time, what sort of advice would you give to the Sally, that was just, going around looking for more information and not actually creating anything for themselves?
Yeah, great question. I think the biggest learning for me and the pinnacle thing that's created the greatest change, and I will also say at the time when I was first learning this and going through this, I was in fetal position, crying in the bedroom. Was when I actually attended a seminar by a very dear friend of mine, and he was actually assisting me to create one of my first signature programs back in the day when I spoke on networking and influence. And we were going through the process of unpacking my inner genius. But because of what I was doing was so instinctive, I couldn't articulate it. I just knew what I did. So I couldn't write it out to be able to map out a presentation. So, and I found that incredibly difficult and didn't even know what unpacking meant. So, unpacking means you might have a word, might be content marketing, for example, but what are all of the different elements under content marketing? So, again, if you think of a book's got a big word and then it's got chapters, which is you unpacking some of the thinking. So, I had never done that unpacking process back then for myself. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't understand it. But I do, after that hissy fit and the tears and the tantrums in the bedroom and, throwing my hands in, and I actually walked away from that course and program. I did revisit it. I stewed on it because, you know, for a couple of months before I was able to go back and do it again. And I realized that all I needed to do was work out what my methodology for unpacking it was. I couldn't sit in front of a computer and type words and do that sort of stuff. I need post-it notes and I need a pencil and I need sheets of paper and I needed key questions to ask myself to unpack my thinking, like, what does influence really mean to me? What books and I would use resources. What books did I have that were on influence that were influential to me, and why were they influential? So I started to ask myself deep questions and just write stuff down, which is why I've created an ideas airport, because this was my process. I'd have stuff everywhere, but when it's out of your head, because in your head's not a strategy, out of your head gives you the ability to see patterns and potential strategies. So by getting stuff and ideas and thought processes and pause points and everything else out of my head and onto a sheet of paper and using post-it notes and sheets, I could actually move things and actually start to structure things. So the gift of that was actually finding a way for me to unpack my ideas so I could see them visually, because 70 odd % of people are visually represented and visual learners. So trying to do it on a computer or that sort of thing did not work for me. So get it out of my head onto paper. Then I could actually see that there was themes, like there was topic themes and there was clusters of ideas, which meant I actually had something of value. There was clusters of ideas. I actually had ideas upon ideas upon ideas. But it wasn't until I could visually see it that I had the confidence that I was and could have the ability to have good ideas and become a thought leader.
Wow. Wow. That is remarkable insight, because so many people have their processes, yeah, ideas, gifts, and messages all tucked in their head. And until you put it down, you're never going to be able to see it. I mean, while you were thinking that, I remember I used to waste a lot of money on clothes, Sally, when I first arrived in Australia. And the reason was because I was packing my clothes all in drawers and I would tuck them away and I wouldn't know what I have. So on the way back from work, I would just walk through a shop and I'll be like, wow, I love that shirt. Only to realize I've got the same brand, same size, same color. It was just tucked away. And now that I put stuff out, I can see what I don't have and what I do have. So I'm just supposing this is exactly what you're talking about. It saves you time, money, and effort. And
Absolutely.
for some of us sleeping on the couch, because if you bring in something you already have, that obviously stirs trouble. You know,
Very
every
right. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, Sally, this has been fun and interesting, and thank you so much for these insights. But for those that are meeting you for the first time, they would want to know what's next. I mean, you've evolved, you've gone into all these different modes, and you keep creating. What can we anticipate or expect from you moving forward?
Moving forward, I'm very excited because I'm actually creating a number. I love teaching and training, especially in this space, and uncomplicating creating a content plan, looking at your book strategically. How do you fill your events? How do you choreograph your content? So watch this space. Back in the day when I used to run meetup events, and you used to be able to see 12 months of topics that I was going to be coming out to market with from a meetup event, you'll start to see this from a webinar perspective event where I'm there to teach simple strategies, uncomplicate it, and give you forward movement, regardless of where you're at, as it relates to content and utilizing what you've already got, and using it more effectively. So watch this space. You'll start to see a frequency of opportunities to learn and grow through me sharing some of my own insights.
Absolutely. And obviously, there's a big, big elephant in the room, especially when it comes to content creation and things of that nature. How are you incorporating or not incorporating AI into the works that you are doing? And what's your take on it all?
Yeah, another good question. I would have loved AI when I was in tears, fetal position, trying to unpack the word influence. So for us as an agent, so I'll talk for how I use it, and then I'll talk how we use it as an agency. So for me, I love it for brainstorming, getting myself out of my own way. Trying to shorten a sentence or rewording something or asking questions, and that sort of thing. So I use it for brainstorming, clarity, giving me different ideas, coming up with different ways of asking questions, all those sorts of things. Simple things also like rejigging descriptions on podcasts and those sorts of things. So I use it to save time in that manner. From an agency perspective, a lot of what we do is very bespoke and very personable, but we go through and extract people's gold nuggets from their content in their exact words, and we can now utilize AI to keep it in their exact words, but make that sentence that might not have been social media appropriate or might not have been quite the right way it was for different platforms, and we can use AI just to help rejig it in that manner. So we don't use it to create the content, because that's very personable, and that we pride ourselves on being an extension of the people that we work for, their thoughts, their ideas, their essence, and their brand identity and feel. But we certainly use it to fast track and speed up some of our processes, and just use it to gain speed effectively. And we show our clients how to do that exact thing for themselves, as well as it relates to creating their own personal marketing assistant through AI and those sorts of things. So they've got opportunities to, again, speed up their own processes, because if
Absolutely.
you work
Well,
out
I
a
can't
system.
wait to see how you're going to be utilizing it, because I've noticed, in the last week or so, they've come up with AI assistants, things that will actually make a lot more processes of the things that you're doing
Yeah.
quite, doable in at scale and things of that nature. So Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything that we've missed today that you'd have loved that people have an understanding of where they're going, or any sort of last words? Because so many people don't understand that people come to the internet to get information, and if you're the one that's providing that information, then people get to know you, like you, and trust you, and people do business with those they know, like,
Yeah.
and trust.
I think for me, the one thing I'll finish on, and I'll tell a ferret story if I may. I think the greatest thing for myself was actually a few years ago unleashing the ferret personality, because I've always had it. I just didn't talk about it, and I didn't see the overlap, even though I've had pet ferrets for years. So to tell a little bit of a story, this to me is the epitome of business growth and how we need to be as entrepreneurs and as business owners. And I'll share this story of Dolly, who was one of my ferrets. So she would play in the back out in the backyard, and she'd be happy playing it for herself. And I might be inside doing something. And at the back door, we had two screen doors with a security door on it. You know, the crisscross security door, the hard ones.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yep, when Dolly had got bored with her adventures outside, and she wanted to, come in and torment either my ex-husband or come in and do something, naughty inside, she would literally climb up that security door with her claws, because they've got long claws, and then she'd see me inside, and then she'd let her claws out, and she'd go down to the bottom, so the whole screen would shake, and then she'd climb back up again, and then she'd go and the whole thing would shake. Now, the reason I say that is Dolly knew that if she rattled on enough doors, she would get what she wanted. So if you remember that one tip, business growth is all about rattling on enough doors until you get what you want. And I'll finish it off by saying, by serving others to get what they want. And ferrets are that ferret story is a great analogy, because ferrets are persistent and know exactly what they want, and they will train you perfectly.
Absolutely, I quite like that. I can now hear the screechy sound of the security door, coming down. And in and of itself, this is just remarkable what we've just gone through right now. I'm hoping we'll be able to create 2 years worth of content from this one particular podcast, and I can't thank you enough for obviously sharing with us your incredible journey and the wisdom that you've gathered along the way, because that's very important. How many people out there have had the exposure of all these personal development gurus that you've had, and also being told and having the kind of clients that you've had that have influenced the way that you've become. And I tried to explain earlier on, it was all man-made, and here's the product that we are here to showcase. And the fact that you're still in the game and moving forward, and a lot more stronger, especially with the advent of artificial intelligence that is here to be that wing beneath the content wings. I can't wait to see what you're going to be creating. So I'm going to be on the lookout for all those door wranglings that are going to be happening there, and then I would know, yeah, that was Sally. She's just rattling on a lot more doors than anything else. So thank you so much for that. And if you're watching this right now, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and check out more content that we've been creating. But one thing that I really want you to do is, if you've just written a book, or you know somebody who's just recently written a book, please share with them this particular episode so that they can get to know what Sally can be able to help them with. And obviously, this is something that so many people, after creating a book, that's only the beginning. You now need to put it out there into the world. And yes, you need to rattle as many doors as possible. And Sally is the right ferret for that particular job. I will also be putting all the links in the show notes below, so that you can actually get started on your journey to 2 years worth of content with Sally at the helm of it. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and keep rattling those doors. Bye for now.